of the pile top laner, the rest of the roles are not considered to be the best in Europe either. So let's see how H2K perform in this particular matchup.
I'm definitely interested in seeing what they decide to finish the bans up with. We actually talked about, they're on the analyst desk talking about the Sejuani maybe being a counter to the Nidalee, but that won't really be a problem this time as Nidalee's taken off the board. Gnar banned away as well as the coaches talk it out with the teams on what's next. I'm
interested to see what Diamondprox runs in the jungle, and also if he's going to continue to stick with that skirmishes. Deficio pointed it out yesterday, and I want to remind everybody, Diamond has gone skirmisher saber on every single jungler that is run, and no other European jungler is doing it as frequently. Jankos has pulled it out from time to time. We've seen, a few flirts with it, but really Diamond is fully committed to that upgrade. And from talking to some of the junglers, the power that it gives you in the late game against AD carries, having that damage reduction so you can keep bullying them, keep zoning them is obviously great. Gambit have not been able to make it to that point in so many of their games because they're simply giving up too much in the early game. So let's see if they can have a stronger laning phase against H2K.
They're definitely going to have to change it up. H2K, again, we mentioned that they're on sort of an upturn here. But if Gambit can upend that table and grab one win back here, what must that do for the comments? You'd be beating out a team that is just, solidly, they've said, maybe not the best team, of course, but they're still on a good trend. If you can beat them when they're on that upswing, you can grab quite a lot back for yourself mentally, and they will take a first pick Kassadin for themselves. Nick really has been trying to force the assassination, but this is still a flex pick as well. We have not seen Cabochard play that one just yet, but it's still a possibility.
It is. We've seen Nick playing it. Week 1, Nick continuing to stick with those assassins. Kassadin, Fizz, LeBlanc, Ahri. He's got one game on Lulu. It's not working for Nick. The playstyle is really not in his favor. We've not seen him fall back to something more passive, more utility-based in a while, barring that one game on Lulu, and even that was not particularly inspiring. So we need to see how this first pick Kassadin works, because they've given up some priority picks for H2K.
Admittedly, he did have a pretty solid score yesterday against the Wolves. 11-5-5 on the Ahri. Probably one of his best considering where his KDA was before, but, yeah, but this is still, they weren't able to pick up the win. I mean, it's still a rough situation.
Despite his KDA being good, that was Copenhagen Wolves being sloppy, and Nick missed so many charms yesterday. He really did not land as many skill shots as he needed to. If you're playing a champion like Ahri, that is the most important skill shot in your entire kit. He needs to be able to connect with those. So it's going to be Ryu playing Ahri this time round, another mid laner that has also had a few on and off games. Ryu, however, has been finding a bit more of his feet. He played Lulu about a week ago and actually stepped up, found some kills on his Zed. He's looking better, but Ryu as well is also suffering from the problem that his team and his other lanes are oftentimes giving up some kills and some advantages early, so he's not able to carry quite as effectively.
Yeah, also the Annie pickup there for Voidle. And this would be interesting. Now they're going to wait a minute for that one. The TMO hover comes in. But for Gambit, Diamond's also gotten a hold of, again, the Rek'Sai. Didn't work out particularly well for him. And the Graves, I think for Pinoy, is probably fairly predictable in this situation, but haven't found a win on it yet, of course.
No, he hasn't. But, you go back to week 1, Crepo was talking about how if anybody blows somebody up at long range with their ultimate, it's called doing a Pinoy. Pinoy was able to 1v1 double lift at IEM Cologne multiple times, but he's not shown that level of prowess here on this stage in Berlin. So Gambit have put together a very aggressive set of champions. They want to go in with Rek'Sai and Kassadin. You're going to have that AoE burst from Graves, and I want to see how they're going to round out the rest of their team comp. But once again, they're going for a very aggressive, in-your-face, high-damage composition thus far.
On the side of H2K, I feel like this is still a fairly snowball potential. H2K, see if they can maybe be the ones getting aggressive on Gambit to start this one off. The silliness will continue. Hjarnan had a pretty solid game on Corki yesterday. Was unkilled, 3-0-6. Definitely a lot of credit to the heart engage they were making happen there.
H2K have got a pretty standard comp here. A lot of sort of meta picks, with the exception of that Lee Sin. Maybe Jarvan would have been a higher priority if you wanted to run it. But you've got pick potential, you've got wave clear, you've got poke, you've got hard engage. H2K have got a little bit of everything, and I think they might want to go tank in the top lane, but we need to see what Odoamne decides. He knows he's going to be up against this Irelia. On the side of Gambit, I think with the Irelia for Cabochard, they've also got fairly standard champions. They've got a nice gradual power spike. As Graves and Irelia are going to hit these powerful moments, it's going to counterbalance the weakness of Kassadin. As the game progresses, Kassadin is going to start to pick up that power again. So I quite like what Gambit have put together, but they just need to make sure they play sort of standard and don't fall behind in the early game.
I completely agree here, and it's going to be on H2K to try and throw Gambit off in that laning phase in the early game, but if they can hold on this time, well, the games have gone a little bit painfully long sometimes, but it's going to be a good thing for them in this situation. So with that, H2K looking to decide what they want to finally send to the top lane. We did see Kennen before, and it looks like it's been opted for with Odoamne here.
So this is the only sort of non-traditional one. As opposed to going for the control mage like a Lissandra or damage like Rumble, gonna go for a control Kennen. I actually think this is quite smart because Rek'Sai, Irelia, and Kassadin all want to jump into you, and we saw how effectively SK made use of Kennen's slicing Maelstrom. Nobody wanted to engage into that ultimate. Nobody wanted to jump into that zone. And that's going to buy Corki, Ahri, Annie time to reposition, time to move around. Odoamne as well is one of the stronger top laners in the scene at the moment. And as long as he doesn't get jumped on by Cabochard's Irelia, I think he can use the range to harass, assuming they go 1v1, but we might see some lane swap shenanigans from either of these teams.
Yeah, Kennen does seem to be a way to avoid not just being able to not just being poked down so much in the lane, but also to get involved really quickly into those fights and be very slippery. Gambit did have some trouble in that game yesterday against the Copenhagen Wolves, mostly just because of Youngbuck being able to slide out of danger and being able to get into it a lot easier than we've seen that team do.
Yeah, it's actually a good point. You know, Gambit weren't able to beat the Kennen yesterday. Didn't really have an answer to it. Youngbuck could have been a little more aggressive with his positioning, with his ultimate, but we'll see how it works out. You can see the team comps on your screen in a minute. Hit us up on Twitter at LOL Esports. Hashtag GMB win or hashtag H2K win. See who you think's going to win it.
Well said there, yep. The crowd is riled up for this game, that's for sure. Gambit, H2K. Gambit looking for their first win of the season. H2K looking to pad that record. And here we are, onto the Rift.
So a lot of aggression again from both of these sides. My eyes are going to be on Edward's Thresh. Once dubbed the Thresh Prince of the EU LCS, but it is a long time since Edward has been able to perform at that level. Going on 2 years now. And yes, Edward is still doing okay, but he used to be game-changing. He used to be able to carry games, you know, the original carry support out of Europe. And let's see how he's going to perform on sort of his signature champion.
Interesting, he'll be up against Voidle too, another former Gambit support in this situation. So, yeah, I'm really curious to see how he's able to step up in this one, because even in the Gambit squad of last year, Edward was just never really considered the problem. He was the one who was making a lot of the plays, and there just wasn't as much follow potential. There's still glimmers of brilliance on this squad, despite their record. If they can pull it out here, this could be the start of their comeback. It's really difficult to do when you're that many games down and with a shorter number of games in a season, stacked against Gambit, but could this be the start?
We're about to find out, Pyra. But I really like the fact you actually highlight Edward against Voidle. You know, you're talking Gambit support, and, you know, Voidle, he did well. He performed decently. Gambit were looking for alternatives. They played with Darker, they played with Voidle, while Edward is in the promised land of NA. And he returned to Europe amidst fanfare, but has not lived up to the same legacy. This is a team, Gambit are bordering on being a team that has not been good for a longer period of time than a team that they have been good. You know, when Gambit went 2013, it was Gambit and Fnatic in the spring and summer split finals, went all the way. They were second in both of them. They went to Worlds, put on a good showing at Worlds, even without Edward there. And unfortunately, 2014, it's just been a slow decline to the point that Gambit is now 0-5 in the spring split this year.
You're right, and it's just because of how legendary the reputation was, it's kind of hard to get past that one, but Edward is going to try to change that here. He runs right into loulex and forces him out of his own jungle to start this one off.
Yeah, this is actually not the first time Edward has done this either. Week 1, I believe, he was invading on both of their games to harass and annoy his opponents, either duo lane or jungler, and he's able to bully loulex around. The control that is offered is going to allow Diamond to steal that blue buff, and that's going to give loulex the immediate option to counter. Because of the lane swap, which H2k initiated, it's going to mean that loulex can still secure this blue buff relatively safely. I don't know if Cabochard wants to pick this fight because it is against 2 members.
loulex is a little bit low on this one. They're going to see him. There we go. Slide it away. Voidle is actually going to get that, and that helps H2K out quite a bit.
Yes and no. It depends what they do with it. Voidle with blue buff, if he's against a champion, yes, can spam spells, but loulex's jungle clear is going to be significantly slowed. But Odoamne is in trouble.
Yes, he is. Diamond is there, flashing for the knockup. Odoamne, can he get away? No, he cannot. And Diamond gets first blood. That's 4 members of Gambit in the bottom side, and they're fast pushing this tower. Yeah,
Odoamne should not have been there. 3.5-minute gank. Yes, while it is unconventional, he knew that the blue buff was under contest. Edward had moved into there, and unfortunately for Odoamne, he sticks around. Gambit get first blood, they get first tower. Remember that the buff went to Voidle as well, so let's see what Voidle can do with this ability. He's not pushing the wave top. Hjarnan appears to be freezing it, so he's not even spamming the spells out. And the fact that loulex is still going to be very far behind, it's going to slow down this Lee Sin an incredible amount.
Yeah, I know it's a pretty strong point there now that I think about it. The fact that his energy regen's not going to be nearly what it would be with that buff has hampered his ability to make the clears fast enough. And on a jungler that you really need to get rolling quickly with to be effective, lest you get left in the dust, that is a lot of trouble. But let's see if they can make something with it here. Voidle, with that buff, is going to have all the mana.
The interesting thing about that gank as well, Gambit get the 3.5-minute first blood on H2K, and if memory serves, H2K themselves did a 4-man dive at 4 minutes last week. The picks and bans went their way, the lane swap allowed Odoamne and loulex to move through the jungle sort of holding hands and then secure first blood themselves. It got reversed on them. They weren't anticipating it. Odoamne in particular maybe overestimating the mobility of Kennen, and Gambit are 1,000 gold in the lead before 5 minutes. I want to see how they continue to play. With that tower down, you can see that Pinoy is moving up to the top lane, and he's got the support of both Diamond and Edward. So they're looking to set something up on Hjarnan. Flash and Valkyrie, this is going to be tough.
Yep, he's going to immediately use that one, the hook, not predicting where Hjarnan was going to go back to the safety of the tower. But again, Gambit
look at behind.
Try to fast push this. Yeah, this is still dangerous. Voidle and loulex are here, but they're spotted by Diamondprox.
Opting against this, so they didn't want to commit to the fight. Scared of the CC that Thresh was going to put down and the damage from Rek'Sai and Graves. It is very, very scary. So despite the attempt, they also defend the tower. No fight comes of it.
So, and you called it too, because Voidle really didn't make use of that blue buff in any way whatsoever. So really ends up burning H2K there in that situation. However, still trying to hold out in this top side. Eddie and Pinoy don't have the minion wave to shove this one in just yet or force Hjarnan back.
Look at the support from loulex and Voidle. Maybe expecting a dive. So that's either just pressure from loulex. Not really looking to set anything up. loulex still a little bit down on Diamond. Few CS. And obviously Diamond got that first blood, so he's going to get one step closer to enchanting his jungle item. And the lanes have swapped. I quite like the tunnel coverage that Diamondprox is putting into place. I want to see how long those tunnels on the bottom half of the map last. Because if Diamond's able to get to level 6, there's the potential to dive on Odoamne again. Pinoy and Edward, however, they're at risk of getting caught out. Level 4, there's Pinoy. He's going to face check.
Dangerously, yep, right into it, and they're going to try to grab him. The lantern will finally be taken. Pinoy gets a chance, eats an ignite as well, but he will make it out alive.
So loulex spends a lot of time in that top lane. Does not manage to secure first blood. Edward with a good lantern saves his teammates. And as I was talking about those tunnels that Diamond had set up in the blue area of H2K, you can see Odoamne has actually backed off and killed them. They're no longer on the mini-map. So, sort of smart play. And this is what we sort of touched on and alluded to. As long as Cabochard cannot get onto Odoamne, he's going to have the ability to harass and stay safe. But the moment Irelia jumps on him, that is a very scary, scary moment for the little electric hamster.
As mobile as he's able to be, it's very, very hard to avoid being killed by an Irelia once you're in her sight. So Diamond is actually going to go ahead and start the H2K Gromp, waiting for something a little juicier to cross his path. But Odoamne is still playing very back, very safe.
Yeah, it's something you've got to, keep in mind. Because of that blue play and because of the fact that loulex has been invaded upon and pushed back, his power is significantly lower than where it would be. He's a level down, just pings as we catch his sight, but he's not been able to gank. Despite the fact H2K initiated the lane swap, they are the ones that have come off worse for wear. They lost first blood, they lost first tower, they're losing jungle camps. And this all stemmed from the fact that Edward invaded loulex and then Diamond dove Odoamne. H2K need to regain control by getting some deep vision and punishing Gambit's aggressive plays. Instead, they're looking to steal a blue buff themselves. Remember, they got the timing on Gambit's blue earlier, and there's no one around to respond to take it. I think that Diamond should take H2K's blue relatively uncontested, and it's just a numbers thing. H2K have got control of the top half of the map, Diamond and Gambit have got control of the bottom half.
Typically what we see in those lane swap situations, it looks like that will be exactly as you say. Look, Nick going to be able to pick that one up in there. It goes over to him. Meanwhile, they have still continued to force Odoamne back, but he's keeping a CS lead over this Irelia.
Can farm fairly safely, but every time we have looked at Odoamne, he's on the defensive. And when we jump to this top lane, Pinoy losing out on CS. Remember, Hjarnan had extra farming time. He was in the lane alone, which has allowed him to build up this small CS advantage. And loulex again, he's jumping in to fight, but Pinoy and Edward responding well. Edward's positioning is so good in this laning phase. Anytime there's any threat at all, Eddie's backed off thanks to those Moby boots he's picked up and is just placing himself in a safe way to keep Pinoy in a less dangerous position.
Yeah, so far it's worked out quite well for them. Very, very quiet start apart from the explosive action in the opening moments. So Gambit perfectly happy to let this one go for a little while.
At what point do Gambit start the Dragon? They've got vision on the bottom half of the map. They've had the numbers advantage for a little while. They've got Rek'Sai, who, with some support, can start Dragon from level 4. And they're actually just going to jump onto it now. So very little ability to contest. Cabochard at level 7 and Phage is going to have a lot of damage to play with. And this is just going to be completely safe. There's no one around to contest. Easily picked up for Gambit. Despite the fact it gives no gold, Gambit continue to show a preference for securing those dragons.
Yeah. Grab that one with relative ease. A lot of damage on that Rek'Sai. And also worth noting, you talked about it a little bit in the opening stages in the champion selection. Diamond has finally moved away from the Skirmisher Saber. Goes ahead. We've already, he's already upgraded at this point, so it's old news, but all the same. He has gotten himself pretty quick early gank here. Now as Odoamne checks onto Cabochard, some backup from loulex. Diamond is there to try and interrupt. They turn it around. There is the Lee Sin kick. loulex, Cabochard so very low, and he's gonna get picked off. Diamond now is gonna fall. Odoamne getting that one, a pair of kills for the H2K jungler in top lane.
Gambit simply overcommitted to the fight. Odoamne gave so much damage to Cabochard that by time Diamond was in play, the kick, the flash aggressively from Cabochard ended up putting him again in range of Cabochard. So loulex with a decent kickback. All of a sudden, the work that Gambit had put in the early game to keep Lee Sin down, to keep the pressure on him, has been undone. loulex has got a kill, an assist, and he's been able to help Odoamne get a kill. He's not going to stop the jumping on Ryu.
Nope, Diamond was trying, but he couldn't quite close the distance. Nick actually eats a charm, very low, burning away. But he should be able to live through that one as Ignite finishes its cycle. Diamond not quite able to catch Ryu.
Good attempt though, and Ryu with a strong play. Death Sentence, will it connect?
Yes, it will. Eddie is going to go right on in. Pinoy doesn't quite have the spell rotation damage, does he? Whoa! The collateral damage connects at the very end of it all, and Ignite does not finish the job.
I really like that Edward was trying to interrupt the Valkyrie with his flame, saving it. If it had hit, the damage alone would have secured that kill. Unfortunate for Gambit, but a good attempt. They're keeping Hjarnan down despite his CS advantage, and this should allow Gambit to get some more damage on the tower. loulex is in play to defend, Voidle's coming up to help out, but look at Diamond setting up for either some pressure or even just to respond. Actually, no real commitment onto the objective from Pinoy and Edward. They're happy to get some lane control and bully Hjarnan away.
It does seem this Gambit squad, they look for picks, they look for setups that give them edges here, and they've overcommitted once or twice, but they haven't gone too far together as a team. They're playing smarter, I would say, than what we saw in the first couple of weeks.
Yeah, I agree with that. And it might be due to the fact that it's H2K, and H2K have not been as dominant as some of the teams that Gambit have had to, you know, face off against. You know, Gambit have played Unicorns of Love, Roccat, SK, and Fnatic.
Not exactly an easy schedule.
So it's not an easy opening to the spring split. H2K themselves, yes, they've also had tough games against Fnatic and SK, but H2K have battled the Wolves, MYM, and Giants, so it's been a slightly easier start, hence the score difference. Let's see if SK can take advantage of that. Cabochard is in trouble now.
Yep, it is a 2v1. Cabochard, his health bar starting to evaporate as they spend. Dragon's Rage kick on him, and Odoamne picks up a second kill. Start rolling ahead.
Yeah, Cabochard's actually maxing his E, going for that Equilibrium Strike, looking for the burst damage and the stun, just to keep Kennen in place a little bit longer and try force him away. But Odoamne is doing well. He's still maintaining his CS lead. When his Slicing Maelstrom is up, he's had the support of loulex. That's the second time they've been able to kill him with the aid of the jungler. And now H2K are the ones that are actually applying pressure onto the Gambit turrets.
Yeah, I've actually been very impressed with loulex's ability to rove around the map, to match the relative mobility of Diamondprox, considering how rough his early start was. Now Pinoy gonna check on Hjarnan, throws down the smoke screen, but Voidle is there. Is going to back away as Eddie was not in the range for backup.
Yeah, we need to actually see how this game plays out. And depending on if Gambit can pull this one out the bag, I'd really like to hear from Diamondprox as to why the swap? Why now is he playing without the skirmishes? It could just be the fact that Rek'Sai can get more auto attacks down if you can slow your opponent, of course. But that same theory could be applied to other champions that he's played.
Well, he didn't do it yesterday either. So
yeah.
Maybe it's just finally he's thinking, you know, maybe it's not quite worth it. It's definitely worth checking into, but so far it's worked a little bit better for them. However, he's not been able to find anything recently. Now Pinoy living a little dangerously here, as Eddie was still not quite in range. Now he moves up.
Hjarnan's going to be a little careful to not eat a death sentence, because if he does get caught by any CC from Edward, the burst from Pinoy's buckshot and collateral damage and his current AD ratios will blow him up, especially if he doesn't get that heal down quickly enough. So Pinoy doing a good job closing up that lead that Hjarnan has built. But gold is still even. H2K are punishing Cabochard in the bottom lane, and Gambit are just farming away patiently and safely in the top lane.
Doing whatever they can to keep this game going. Now it's 48 seconds on the Dragon. Last time Gambit were able to take it with just 2 members uncontested, but there's a little bit more wariness on this H2K squad. They are backing away as Diamond moves up to the top brush. Only Voidle here. loulex on his way, but they can muscle this one in. The hook is going to go wide to the right, however.
Yeah, this is just a numbers advantage for Gambit, so fairly easily secured tower. Somebody needs to double check with Ryu if he got the note we're playing on 5.2. Got the ingredients of DFG, but we'll see what he can build. He obviously got a big chunk of farm that could have been unexpected.
Still useful items.
Yeah, of course.
Just don't quite build the way they used to.
Built himself up that fairly sizable CS lead.
Oh my goodness, there goes the Annie. And Gambit with their death rush set up. Hjarnan's able to get out, but all the same, that's quite a lot of burst.
Yeah, that was a good commitment from Gambit. Easy peasy kill onto Voidle, as he was the one that was actually face-checking. But what do Gambit do next? So Dragon is up. They've not got the numbers advantage in the bottom lane, and they're not controlling H2K's jungle as effectively as they were. So let's see where Pinoy and Edward go, if they're going to group up to try and pick a fight in the pit. The one thing Gambit has to be wary of is if Odoamne gets a good Maelstrom down with a Tibbers, that could be the AoE that H2K need to control the area. You can see Odoamne's just completed himself that Raleigh Scepter, so going to give even more zoning power to this Kennen, which is what they're looking for. It's what they want for him. On the front line, creating a safer area for his team to do battle in. And the fact that Hjarnan's had that Trinity Force for a little while, they're a very powerful position for this next team fight.
I do like, though, that Gambit has sent Cabochard up to the top, even if he's not going to really be able to deal with Hjarnan. They would have the numbers advantage thanks to the teleport, if they started it. However, Hjarnan has already started his back away, and H2K, after putting down a couple of wards of their own, are going to back in mass. So Gambit all grouped up in between this mid lane and the river, debating if they want to start this one off.
Yeah, the vision for Gambit's not deep enough to super safely move into the river. They have got some wards in and around the entry at least, but with the dashes and the mobility that Thresh, Graves, and Rek'Sai have, they've actually entered the pit from the safest option and outside of the vision of H2K. Hjarnan smelt something is up, but H2K are late to the party.
Yeah.
This is going to be close, Pyro.
Very, very close indeed. Hjarnan tries for the steal. No smite to him, though, so he can't quite do it. Diamond will eat a rocket on the way out, but safely secured. Second dragon for Gambit. Why fight if you can sneak it?
Yeah, exactly. Very smart play from Gambit. They're going to lose a tower in the mid lane, so that'll keep the gold even. But very intelligent positioning from Gambit. They placed the wards in the river. They didn't need to go through the river to get into the pit, so they didn't need the deep vision, which is the traditional way to start off a safe dragon engage. And Diamond was able to smite that one away, despite Hjarnan trying to get the burst from Corki. Now, how do Gambit start a team fight? They need to flank. They need Cabochard coming from a side lane to try get that equilibrium strike, or even Diamond getting a tunnel from the back. If they can do that, it will allow Graves, Kassadin to just get the damage down. Although, Pinoy's down in the bottom lane, so they're not going to be looking for a fight.
And I feel like he's missed the memo. A little bit more farm on his mind. Now, Cabochard jumps in onto Odoamne. Low tower at the top. Whoa, hello. The Maelstrom comes out as well. Cabochard is going to back away from that one, but it was very, very close for a moment.
Yeah, a lot of damage from Odoamne and Cabochard. I didn't anticipate Cabochard being burned through so quickly, but had Odoamne stuck around and eaten a few auto attacks from Irelia, the sustain plus the Trinity Force procs could have worked in Cabochard's favor. So wisely, both top laners back away. Odoamne's done a lot of damage on that top tower. Is going to open it up as an objective, once they decide to move forward. And
that's actually a noun.
Decent work. Yeah, we'll get there.
Yeah, we will.
Get there.
So Ryu has made do, by the way, with his ingredients. He goes ahead and picks up the Death Cap first, still sitting on that Fiendish Codex as well. So he can definitely utilize that, but I feel like he made the realization a bit later. Yeah,
and the mana regen item he should pick up will most likely be the Morenanomicon. Yes, there is a lot of magic damage threat from Kassadin, but it's not particularly... there's nothing else on the rest of the team. So Ryu, the sooner he can get to an Hourglass, have that additional armor, the happier he's going to be. But both teams just trading blow for blows. We're 20 minutes in. There's 300 gold separating the teams. Itemization is ticking along. Pinoy's going for that give me burst now with the Brutalizer Eye Edge. Trinity Force, the Sorcerer she's picked up. So it's just slow and steady, and the only engages we're most likely going to see is if someone's out of position or if they fight around Dragon.
Yeah, the scattered skirmishes really going to seem to be the way to go for a while. Again, Gambit is perfectly happy to let this one stall out for a while because they do have the scaling on their side. They've got an Irelia and a Kassadin, two very item-dependent champions who, well, Cabochard has hit that item spike. However, he hasn't really been quite as relevant just trying to 1v1 Odoamne for the most part. And at this point, there's no reason for them to try to take a straight team fight. H2K, on the other hand, are trying to get a little bit of map control. They're going to clear some of those Rek'Sai tunnels away. And Diamond will go to the top side where there still are a few.
I personally like how H2K have come out of the laning phase. Gambit obviously got some kills. They punished H2K for starting the lane swap, and Gambit took an early lead. But what H2K have done is applied pressure on the map. Odoamne has handled Cabochard's Irelia, I would say, fairly well. Yes, they're even on CS, but Odoamne's come out with some kills. He's very close to getting his Hourglass completed. And once that's done, H2K have got the big ingredient that they're looking for in their team fights. And what H2K have been successful at is replying to the towers that Gambit have put on the map. You've also noticed the deep vision. You mentioned it a second ago. It's pink wards, or wards rather, going into the red side jungle of Gambit. H2K slowly getting control, and then they can start using their Kennen, Ahri, Lee Sin to find the picks and the targets.
And they do seem to be dictating the pressure game here, because even though Gambit has been throwing a few waves at their towers, there really hasn't been a response. Now, Odoamne, Lightning Rush was down, so he's going to pop away for a moment, but Gambit can't quite catch the rodent.
Yeah, but look at the minimap. Voidle's coming in from the river as well as Lee Sin. As I was talking about that, though, it's actually Ryu getting damage down. Ooh. So they've backed away from the engaged top, but it looked like loulex and Voidle wanted to find a fight.
Yeah, still very close call, and Pinoy ends up spending his collateral damage just to move Ryu out of the tower range. So H2K, again, still looking for a push wherever they can. Gambit just trying to clear the minions away and get farmed up.
Yeah, this is a much better start to the game for Gambit than we've seen in the past. Odoamne and Hjarnan, they won, Nick.
Yep, he's going, however, to Rift walk it out. It's a little bit hard to catch Kassadin.
Yeah, flash burned, so trading a Maelstrom for a flash, I think that's fair. Odoamne will get his ultimate back many minutes ahead of Nick's flash, but it's always going to be hard. Look for Ryu on the sideline. He wants to hit Edward or Pinoy with a charm.
He's going to, yes, Pinoy, before he can even react. Charmed and taken down. Now H2K on the chase, looking for Eddie right now. They don't quite have the damage as he burns his flash to get out of harm's way, but they've taken out the big damage threat on Gambit.
Odoamne was wishing he had his ultimate available for that fight. It didn't work on Kassadin, but H2K find the pick. Ryu's on the board with an assist. Kill credit went elsewhere, and now H2K looking for an objective. Dragon's not up. They've got minions pushing middle, but instead I think they're going to spend the gold they've earned and set themselves up, get some vision in play, and then look to challenge for Drake. Hjarnan and loulex may even be able to shred through before Gambit can reply. You can see pings from Gambit that they know it's spawning soon.
Wisely, H2K aren't going to stick around with just a couple. It looks like they will focus on trying to make sure they know where Gambit is and where they aren't. Hjarnan pushing back. Middle waves as Diamond goes as close as he can to that Drake, which is now just spawned up. But H2K already moving in the direction. They're going to beat Gambit here. And actually, as you see, the fan vote there, Gambit's still favored by those fans.
Yeah, just by a small margin. They started off really well, so that could be why. We'll touch on Diamond's tunnels in a moment. H2K have got the Dragon low. Gambit going to try challenge.
Yep, not going to be able to. Diamond pops in, pops right back on out, but H2K secured their first Dragon of the game. 24.5 minutes in, and they're looking to shove down the middle lane.
Pyra, yesterday, Gambit went real late against Copenhagen Wolves.
Not by choice, though.
4 dragons apiece before the game eventually ended.
And Gambit also picked up the first 4 of those dragons, so it really started to go 180 degrees after a while. They had a very early game focused comp. This time it's very different. Oh, Eddie eats a charm.
Today's game feels much better. Gambit are not missing as many abilities. They actually took some good moves against H2K in the early game, and they're responding better to H2K's plays. One thing that I like, oh, here comes Odoamne from the side.
Yep, he's going to go in with the Maelstrom and now taking extremely low, but H2K is here. The hook caught loulex the collateral damage, and H2K have to back away. Can they get the assassination? Cabochard kicked away as he grabs Odoamne, but he gets a double kill on Voidle nonetheless. Nick on the floor, chasing forward. Ryu, extremely low, spirit rushing his way to safety, but Gambit, that was a fight that they were looking for.
Odoamne's Maelstrom did not hit enough members of Gambit, and he was too far ahead. The rest of H2K was simply not close enough for that team fight to work out. Gambit punish, and Irelia and Kassadin run down the members of H2K. Gambit get their 3rd and look to be 4th tower of the game and arrest control.
You were just saying how Gambit have been able to react so well to H2K compared to the rest of the teams they faced down this split. And that is a textbook example right there. A moment of mistiming by Odoamne, goes in just too early for his team to be involved in it, and Gambit were able to turn it around. Honestly, they could have gotten more had there not been so many escape utilities on H2K's side, but still, 2 kills in this situation and a tower, not bad at all.
Yeah, and if you're Odoamne, what you want to be doing with that Kennen is waiting for Gambit to jump on you. You want to counter-engage with the Maelstrom, because you noticed how easy it was for Gambit to get away. Diamond's going to use the tunnel, Kassadin's going to flash away. Yes, that Maelstrom hits 2 or 3 members of Gambit, but the rest of the team just kited around the side lanes. The burst damage from Pinoy, as every member of H2K grouped up, just set them up for such an easy kill. Very well played by Gambit to deal with Odoamne, and I think over-eager from H2K.
Yeah, not only that, but I think Odoamne misplayed that in not just getting there too early. He had his Zhonya's available the entire time, and he didn't use it. That would have bought just enough time for H2K to get in there, but he'd already eaten all the damage by the time they arrived.
Yeah, unfortunately, was caught out in the moment he arrived, and good equilibrium strike from Cabochard helped out. What I do like from H2K, they've got some deep vision down. it's going to at least give them some information to work with. But it's only going to last a few minutes. And Gambit are the ones that have been able to deal with H2K's aggression as they've now swung back. H2K looking for ways to get on the inner turrets. And the only way that H2K have found to get on those inner turrets is to try to force those engages. They're looking for fights. They're looking for Odoamne to go in. And it hasn't actually been as convincing as H2K would have liked.
H2K, however, still not very far behind Gambit. This game has gone back and forth, but not in huge swings. It's been a very, very slow tick of the pendulum here. And even though they've overcommitted, as you mentioned, they've tried to force a few things. Gambit's reactions have been a little bit too good. What do you think they really need to do, though, to get the lead that they need to close this out, or at least to get a big push on Gambit?
So for both teams, it's going to come down to warding. For both teams, it's going to come down to whether H2K are ready for a team fight. Can they deal with Rek'Sai, Irelia, and Kassadin jumping onto them? And can they survive Pinoy's burst? Pinoy with his Ghost Blade and that Infinity Edge is hurting a lot. And in order for them to do that, they have to keep that vision game up. They know Gambit wants to aggress. They know Gambit have got this team comp that they want Cabochard to come in from the side lanes, or Diamond to even come in from the back. And Diamond's tunnel network has been fairly deep for this game. So whoever gets those wards in place, you can see H2K again going for that, as Deficio calls it, in-warding. Group up, get in, ward, and get out. But what do they do with this information? How do they play with it? We've got 3 minutes to see. At the moment, H2K have not actually had the greatest play with their vision.
Yeah, for all those wards that they have placed down, it's not really affording them much of anything right now. Grouped up around the middle, Gambit trying to force the issue here. Dragon is about a minute away. And for H2K, denying that third is about as important as it is for Gambit to grab that extra mobility.
Very interesting to see where the Sheen goes for Nick. Got the option. If he wants to go Lichbane, got the option if he wants to go Iceborne, Gauntlet, get some armor up. But we'll see in a moment. And again, this is just telling you exactly what Nick wants to do. He really wants to fight, get that damage down, increase his burst even further. And if you can combo all of that into the same targets for Gambit, you're able to use that mobility to your side.
I was going to say, I love how he's still sitting on basic boots too, you know, trust the Rift Walk. It won't steer you wrong. As H2K hanging a little bit closer to the top side here and actually pinging it out by the Baron that they want to try to bait this brush and see if they can maybe make a trade on this one. And there is no vision here for Gambit, so they are in the dark. Quite literally, but H2K is not starting the purple worm up yet.
I like the pink wards from H2K. It's made it quite clear, but I think Gambit are aware. Let's see who gets caught.
Yeah, it's Diamond. The Tibbers comes down, lands on Pinoy, and Gambit are starting to melt, but Hjarnan is going to be the first casualty of that one. Pinoy shortly following. Gambit trying to bail out of a bad situation. Nick with the Rift Walk over the wall. It ends up being a trade of AD carries, but can Nick make the great escape? Odoamne in hot pursuit.
Despite the fact that H2K had a great engage, because Cabochard is in such a great position and so well fed at the moment, he's got a good amount of farm, a large number of kills, he was able to actually just solo Hjarnan down. I think H2K, that was a good example of how to use the vision. They had the pink wards in play. Slicing Maelstrom also peeled away. Nick and Cabochard completely untouched. They just jumped in to focus Hjarnan down. And Ryu unable to really get more damage elsewhere. Voidle's down.
Yeah, in the pit. Yeah, Gambit. I like that Diamond immediately used the Void Rush to get within range to try to head H2K off at the pass there. And they're able to push in. They grab Voidle out of position. H2K slow to react. Third Dragon over to Gambit now. And this is where it starts to get tough if you're H2K. You had almost the perfect setup, and they just didn't do much with it. And now they're caught on Odoamne. Play backwards. He's not going anywhere after that. Zhonya's finishes on up. Goodbye.
Giving the kill to Cabochard. 5 and 2. Just all too easy. It's really interesting. That Baron fight, you know, Pinoy and Hjarnan may have or should have looked for slightly different positioning. You know that Kassadin's going to jump in. I think for Hjarnan a bit more difficult. He was stuck in the middle of his team, but Pinoy may have had the option to hang back just a moment in case of the dive. H2K very aggressive. They pull off the bait. They've stalled the game out a little more. But Gambit with their third Dragon and now pressure on the bottom and the top lane, it is Gambit that are actually in control of the map.
And they've got themselves a bit of a lead built up too. If they get this more tower gold, they will even push that further. So top second tier is taken away by Pinoy uncontested. The rest of Gambit around the bottom side. loulex trying to get a push back, but he does eat a bit of damage for his trouble.
You know, this is one of the better performances that we've seen from Gambit in all of their games. And one of the things that I think is helping them in that regard is their comp is relatively simple to play. It is just all in. You've got point-and-click stands and skills and Cabochard, point-and-click for Nick. There's not a lot of skill shots or problems. And the reason that that is also true is the fact that Gambit have been underperforming. They simply needed to play better as individuals and as a team. And this is a team comp that is helping them do that.
Absolutely agree with you on that one. And I think that they're putting the kills where they needed to be. In the beginning, it seemed like they weren't really caring too much who got what, but now they've started to springboard off Cabochard rolling forward. He had a bit of a rough time with the lane swapperoo and, of course, dealing with Odoamne, but now he's just kind of gotten out of control. And it's going to be hard to stop a snowballing Irelia. Not to mention there's the threat of Nick. Yes, he's 0-0-3, but this is an item-dependent champion.
Yeah, I don't know what H2K are going to do. They were banking on this Kennen to work. Odoamne was playing so aggressively, and he did okay, but he's not kept Cabochard done. He's the one that's lost by 30 CS. And if his Maelstrom does not protect H2K, then Gambit are just going to steamroll over that little Hjarnan.
Yeah. Almost the antithesis of what they were actually thinking about picking too. I want to hark back to champion selection for a minute because they hovered the Mundo for a really long time, and I can't help but thinking that front line would have been so much better in this situation. It's hard to predict where you're going to be 35 minutes into the game, admittedly, but I just think it would have worked out in general for what H2K wanted to do in the game plan.
I sort of disagree, mostly because Mundo's not going to stop Irelia, Kassadin, and Rek'Sai. Yes, he'll have a tanky front line, but he doesn't offer you any control in those team fights. He can survive a long time, but Nick, Diamond, Cabochard, they'll just be able to dash past him and through him. I think the Kennen pick maybe could have been better if it was a Lissandra instead. You wait for one of them to jump in, you use your ultimate as Lissandra to lock them down. That gives you a similar zone of slow and control, and you can get damage down. But that's hindsight right now. Collateral damage used just to clear the wave.
Speaking of hindsight.
And H2K trying to force the pressure, knowing Nick's not there.
Yeah, they turn tail and run on that one, but still push back. Nick actually not going to push this wave in, and H2K are pinging on the Baron. There is a Gambit ward there, but the Scuttle Crab Shrine is controlled by H2K, so moving into the pit right now, they're going to sweep out that one ward and not start the Baron up just yet. Gambit in hot pursuit. Gotta be careful. Eddie on those hooks.
Yeah, we also see Odoamne step over a Gambit ward, which has been in the top half, that red buff, and that allowed Gambit to instantly just push down the middle lane. Waves working in favor of H2K bottom, working in favor of Gambit top. So we need to see which minions get where.
Oh, but they've caught Voidle. He throws down the timbers, immediately evaporates. Now they've caught onto Ryu, and they take him down. Benoy picking up another one of those. Turntail and run, H2K. They've got to be able to defend this top side, and Gambit are actually moving for the Baron.
You look at all of the vision on the map, all of the wards from both of these teams, it's very good. There are tunnels in play. Voidle just caught out of position in the wrong place at the wrong time. Gambit punished, they get 2 kills. This is going to be a fairly easy Baron. Keep an eye on loulex. He's getting close. He may want to challenge, but this is scary.
No, they've chased him away, though. Actually, Nick is going to be able to pick him up. No smite available as 2 members peeled off to deal with that threat. Eddie taking up a lot of the Baron as it goes down in Gambit's favor.
Another team fight or another situation where Gambit are punishing H2K. Look at the minimap. There's vision everywhere. Voidle had no support from the rest of his team. He had his flash available and simply out of position. Really needed to be closer to his team, hugging. It is difficult, but now Hjarnan
Speaking of positioning too, yeah, Hjarnan, you're not infinitely safe on a Corki. Gambit just starting to get these picks, and I feel like H2K's tilting here.
Yeah, you know, Hjarnan was doing the best he could to push the tower, but he needed to back sooner because the empowered recall from Nick allowed him to get to base and then run down to the tower quickly enough. H2K are falling apart as this game is going on. It feels like they don't fully know how to play with their team comp, and now Diamond is the one that's out of position.
Yeah, he's going to get stunned up, but you know, he's tanky enough at this point to be able to escape that. So he gets away, even though Ryu and Voidle were able to catch him. Charm, ooh, again, ooh, Diamond living dangerously, but Eddie is there. I don't really think they needed to pull the save. They just want to control the Drake pit here.
Yeah, they really do, and Gambit have got control of it. I Warmogs Irelia at 6-2 and 2 with Triforce and Banshee. That is terrifying. Ryu's in so much trouble.
Yeah, but Nick's the one who does get caught. Maybe they can still turn this one around instantly. Oh my goodness, all that damage. The Maelstrom coming out, but Cabochard picking up another kill. Ryu is gonna grab Eddie. Now Cabochard barely avoiding his own death. Pinoy chasing down Ryu, not quite enough damage or mobility to get that catch. They do trade 1 for 3, so Gambit still comes up quite ahead, can take their time about this dragon, and they really only need Pinoy and Diamond to do it.
You are not going to get a better slicing Maelstrom than that. Odoamne throws it down on basically everyone from Gambit, but unfortunately, H2K just did not have the damage to back it up. You'll notice Hjarnan was not in the fight. So this is just going to be a 5 versus 4, and despite the fact that Gambit are caught in the Maelstrom, there was no Corki there. There was no consistent damage over time. Gambit used the numbers to their advantage and win a relatively easy team fight, losing only 1 and securing their 4th dragon of the game. With Baron buff and 1 dragon away from that Mega buff, there's very little H2K can do to pull themselves back in. They seem to be scattered, they seem to be playing catch-up, and Gambit is punishing them for that.
Still even in the tower game, but mostly because Gambit just hasn't really been able to push in those with the wave clear that H2K possess. However, you're absolutely right. It's definitely starting to turn away from them. They're not even really able to do much in their own jungle right here. Ryu, with some backup, will chase Diamond away from that one. And now loulex trying to chase with the help of Odoamne onto Eddie. They've got the catch back onto him, and they will take the pick, but they still might pay for that. Cabochard teleported in. They look for Hjarnan. Here comes Nick. They're blowing them all up. Pinoy with the collateral damages. Odoamne is turned on target. Pinoy's going to find another. They're going to find a 3rd on top of that. Double kill to Pinoy. Odoamne, Hjarnan, and Voidle all down for the price of 1 Thresh.
Another 1 for 3. There was no bell from Odoamne. They're going to carry on chasing.
Yeah, Nick is going
is tearing through H2K. Gambit have got the ability to push these towers, and Diamond's even going to interrupt Ryu.
Yeah, Ryu was trying to back sneaky-like on that one, but Diamond's still chasing him down. They've grabbed a turret. Ryu cannot back to defend this. It's only loulex here, and Ryu still in the danger zone as Diamond continues to push him away.
Can he land another
Yes, he can.
Seeker? He can.
He's going to chase solo. Yep, Ryu can't do anything. Oh my goodness. Gambit starting to run this game fully away from H2K's control. They're scrambling everywhere they can. An inhibitor went down in the middle. Big wave pushing up top. Death timers are starting to get long here, QuickShot.
This middle of the pack jungler, according to loulex, Diamond is showing up. 4, 1, and 11. He's making the right calls. He's had the ability to do well because Cabochard has got rolling. Gambit have had a tough schedule. Of their 5 losses, 4 of them are against top-of-the-table teams. They had a sloppy game against Copenhagen Wolves yesterday, and now they are showing what they have the ability to do. H2K were on the upward swing, and that has been steadily halted by Gambit's aggressive plays.
And we said it before the game that this win, if it goes through this way for Gambit, will just mean so much to them, grabbing it back against the team that was on the up and up. Right now, it's definitely not looking that way, looking at the score. Gambit, if they can close this one out, it'll be so huge for them.
It really, really will. And it was basically do or die time. You know, if you go 0-6, 33% of your games are lost. Mathematically, the chances of coming back and getting out of that relegation spot, look, they're not much better with the 1-5 record.
But it's still better than 0-6.
Exactly. It is a step in the right direction. It is a big confidence boost. And there's still a lot to learn from this game. Gambit are punishing H2K's mistakes. They've gained advantages from punishing H2K's decisions because of H2K's engages and positioning. But Gambit need to now find a way to close the game. They've got super minions in the middle, they've got no more inner turrets to work with, and it's just down to inhibitor. Nick may want Ryu.
He's gonna wait on that now. Oh, last second, there we go. Ryu was able to react quite quickly, does have to spend his Spirit Rush, however.
Well, Nick wants to chase with his Riftwall.
He's got the capability to do it, not quite enough as he runs into those minions.
Ryu really landed a great charm. I mean, he hit Nick point blank there, but well played. A lot of damage traded back and forth. Gets the summoner Ignite. Well, cost Ignite as well, so equal trade. But, you know, Nick, this is one of his sort of marquee performances, standing up 2-0 and 9. Got a lot of damage, a lot of farm. Despite falling behind Ryu in lane, didn't give up kills, and he's doing very well for the time being.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's not the only threat on the team by a long shot, but just about everybody on Gambit have individually and as a team stepped up. Diamond weaves his way over the wall, but the rest of H2K is there. They won't be able to get a pick in that situation, and they are going to back away. A minute and a half on Dragon. If they get that 5th one, they'll start to really roll forward in power.
Yeah, they will. And what's worked for Gambit very well is Cabochard's teleport timing. It's not something we've actually spoken about a whole lot, but that previous fight that got them their 4th Dragon, Edward went down. Edward was, taken out by H2K. Cabochard TP'd in the back of the team and committed to a fight knowing that Eddie wasn't there, knowing the box wasn't in place. But because he's so fed and so powerful, they still won the team fight. So we need to see if Cabochard can get another quick teleport.
Diamond, yeah, he's going to the Maelstrom, is on in the middle. However, they caught Ryu, throws down his hourglass, and immediately still looking for more. loulex chunked out. Diamond, nearly the same. They get the hook on. They're gonna catch Voidle. Not quite enough damage to double kill. Going over to Hjarnan's way as he goes forward, looking for more. Can't quite catch it. Pinoy moves around. He gets a double kill of his own. However, the kick connects. Here comes the Lee Sin. loulex trying to blow him up. Diamond still distracting. Finally shut down by Odoamne. This fight has been absolutely crazy as Cabochard picks up one as well. A 3-for-3. How bloody was that?
Pinoy goes full Pinoy. Finally finding some of the form that he had at IEM.
He's not done.
He wants to chase down H2K. Now, what happened there was Odoamne got a good ultimate. He managed to get damage down into Gambit. The carries of H2K were kept alive.
Super minions.
And Hjarnan was able to get the DPS down. Unfortunately, H2K did not take out Pinoy. So what ends up happening again, Odoamne in the middle of the fight. Eddie's caught. Pinoy doesn't want to step into the Maelstrom. Look at his positioning, relying on that collateral damage off on the side lane. I do want to note Dragon is being secured by Pinoy, but the great play was how Pinoy just finishes up, jumps in, focuses Hjarnan, and then deals with what it was effectively 2 threats just because of all of the damage he's got built up. Great fight for Gambit, but even scarier for H2K. Dragon number 5 has been secured. Aspect of the Dragon, countdown timer is on. What can Gambit do with it?
They're certainly going to try to push in the middle there. Glowing for just a few. We'll see if they can. They've got an open inhibitor in the middle, but that is where H2K's members have been grouping up here. It's going to be so hard to fight, though, against this 5 Dragon buff team when they've only got one of their own. Baron's live, and that looks like what Gambit is interested in for the time being. However, it's not going to be unsighted. Yeah,
Pinoy saved that previous team fight. But what we've seen from both of these teams is that whoever engages the fight has tended to come off worse for wear. H2K in the early game trying to fight Gambit and losing. Now Gambit...
Oh, the hook! Oh, that's a Banshee's Veil.
Now manages to get it popped at least, so advantage Gambit. But they're playing the bait game. They're trying to pull H2K towards them. There's so much damage in Gambit that if they started this Baron, it would go quickly. The problem for Gambit, look at the minion waves. Top and bottom is not in their favor. This could come down to a 50-50 smite, Pyro, because loulex is in range. He's got it available. Gambit, I think, wisely back away.
They still try to grab something on their way out, but can't quite secure it. And as you mentioned, they do have to take care of some wave maintenance, so they will send Nick up to the top to do just that. Meanwhile, H2K have a little bit of a chance to grab some more vision of themselves. Ryu pushing in the middle. Pinoy's got to be careful here, but he's got the backup from his team.
With the Mercurial Scimitar, that could be a very interesting duel. If Pinoy could dodge or avoid the charm, I think he's got enough damage to outlast what Ryu could put down. So wisely anyway, both sides back away. Baron play gets thwarted. The minion waves are too powerful. Gambit have to deal with that bottom minion wave. There's so many there. And it should be Cabochard that should deal with it with that TP. But he's making no indication to move, and Edward swing and a miss, swing and a miss, swing and a miss. He's trying. You just need one hook to land.
And now they're trying to zone this one out. Okay, here we go. Nick, they've turned the fight. There's the Maelstrom, but they are starting to blow targets up. Nick is a little low himself. Cabochard getting kicked so tanky on this one, however. loulex trying to run away into the red buff. And here we go. Ryu is going to pick up Eddie, but it's a consolation prize as they've already lost 3 members. Cabochard coming in, still really low in this one, but it's going to be a tag team. Diamond coming back, a double kill for Ryu. Can he turn the fight around? They just might have it, a triple kill. Ryu still hanging alive, not quite burned down as Hjarnan picks up Diamond. In the end, it actually goes H2K's way, but there's still some time on this one as Hjarnan extremely low. Can Pinoy pick him off? Yes. It's a 4 for 4.
Keep in mind, H2K traded 4 for 4 against a team with aspect of the dragon, against a 5-buff Gambit squad. H2K were able to peel away despite the fact that they got jumped on. Gambit did not stick together. Gambit did not keep themselves together. So the initiation started after Nick got a very, very, very good force pulse down. But the problem for Gambit follows when they start to split up. You've got Ryu and Hjarnan just hammering away onto Pinoy and Cabochard in the back. And as Gambit start to split up, they lose one after the other, because again, there's no grouping. Ryu's waiting for cooldowns. Diamond pops in, can't hit somebody when they're in Hourglass. H2K did a good job of staying alive despite the fact they got caught. And again, it's against a team with 5 dragons.
Yeah, really, really sloppy there. Pinoy's still able to clean up a little bit. I feel like he probably could have grabbed Ryu, but he trusted the Ignite to finish, didn't quite do the job. And now that aspect of the dragon is gone. And you know, QuickShot, Gambit yesterday had a very long, drawn-out game that ended in a very painful loss for them. They maybe have a better comp for this later stage. However, they've had closing problems in the past, and it looks like
Gambit want to fight here.
They certainly try to find some poke.
So we're approaching 50 minutes. Gambit, despite having a 10k gold lead, just lost a big team fight, but unless they blow somebody out, Pinoy wants to go.
Yeah, he spends quite a lot of summoners for that one. Here comes the Kassadin. They get the shutdown, but Nick is going to pay dearly. Odoamne, can they turn the fight after this one? Cabochard going into the back line, kicked away from all that one. Pinoy is going to find the pick onto Odoamne. Diamond, they turn onto Voidle. It's a double kill going over to Pinoy. They have turned up the pressure. They've so far won this fight, but there's still time. Hjarnan, the hook, not going to connect. Straight through the base gate comes Pinoy. loulex zoned a little bit farther out as Diamond finally will back away from that one. They should be able to grab an inhibitor there, though, and that is what they need.
1 for 3. If H2K do not get rid of Pinoy, they do not win the team fights. Yes, they blew Nick up very effectively and they got him off the table, but it is not enough. It is Pinoy that is 11, 2, and 10 at a 6-item build. Gambit once again gain map control by re-securing that inhibitor, and they're going to take the Baron out. Minions are pushing in favor of Gambit on the bottom. They should be able to get them to push in favor of Gambit on the top, and that might be the way in for this Gambit squad. Nick, I really like this flash rift walk engage. Getting the force pulse down, Odoamne does the best that he can to lock up Pinoy, but the moment Pinoy's in trouble, Summoner Heal is out, Crucible is down, and he uses that Mercurial Scimitar just to get out of the damage from Kennen.
Also, Cabochard able to just escape at the last moment, too. Really nice tag teaming from Gambit. This time they focused the targets a lot better. They got themselves an inhibitor and a Baron for it as well, so at this point, you've got the tools to close this one out. How are they going to do it?
They're going to wait for H2K to pick a fight that Gambit can win. Because it's pretty clear that when Gambit are forcing fights themselves, they lost. The reason they won that previous fight is because Ryu was out of position. Ryu took so much burst that Nick was able to chunk him down and flash engage. Gambit have got Baron, Gambit are going to take Dragon, and they're going to look for somebody to be out of position before they jump in. I mean, they've got all the buffs in the game. And
can't get much better than that.
No, you really can't. But they're still 51 minutes in. They're still scrapping. You know, they're still trading back and forth, because Gambit simply are not finding the engages that work for their team comp.
Yeah, they have been flanked a couple of times. Cabochard's going to get caught by the charm, but with these super minions and those hooks from Eddie just going to catch loulex and burn his Banshee's Veil. They actually had to back away, though.
That was great from Pinoy. He put so much damage onto Hjarnan that he's forced to back away. The empowered minions bashing away at this inhibitor turret, and Pinoy's going to take it. H2K forced to defend because, once again, Pinoy has a very confident play.
Yep, they're going to try to find it. Diamond is the one in the front. However, Odoamne is also frontlining for his team as he throws down the Zhonya's Hourglass. Not quite enough follow-up, and loulex gets the kickback. Not even the damage they needed. They've lost Voidle, they've lost Odoamne. It's a double kill for Pinoy, looking for more. How much can he go? That looks like a triple kill. Cabochard comes up with another. Ryu is going to evaporate, just barely staying alive for a second, but they'll pad that score anyways. There comes the ace. There should be the game, and Gambit Gaming have finally gotten on the board. 1 and 5 to start the split.
That is going to be a massive confidence boost. You could see Pinoy and Edward jumping for joy as the Nexus explodes. Hugs all around. And, you know, it was an exciting game to watch, and it was one that Gambit actually was in control of for most of the match. But they're not out of it yet.
Still a tough climb ahead, you're right.
It is a very difficult climb.
But for now, celebrations, they've managed to get themselves a win here in the LCS Spring Split of 2015. Shaking those hands with the H2K players, who did put up a pretty good fight, but this late game composition, the picks, the focus where they needed to be, Gambit finally were able to pull this one out. And the faithful of Gambit Gaming cheer them on to a well-deserved victory, albeit another long one.
It was, 52 minutes on the clock, and what was it, 6 Dragons, 3 Barons, really, really objective hungry. Gambit Gaming, I like what they did in the early game. I really like how they punished H2K's lane swap. Their tower dive was good. They responded to loulex's theoretical play well. Edward getting the pressure in the jungle. The problem fell for Gambit that they didn't really know how to press their advantage. The only fights that they convincingly won was when H2K made a mistake, when H2K were out of position. So Gambit need to find a way that they can actually win a fight without their opponents making a mistake.
Yeah, and they made several of their own, not just that game, but throughout all the games they've played so far. So there's a lot of holes to plug in this Gambit team, but that is a huge confidence booster. H2K was on a really big upswing. They give up the ghost in this one. Gambit is able to close out against them finally, just overwhelming them for the most part. So congrats to them. They've gotten on the board. It's still a long way to go, but definitely better than starting 0-6.
Yeah, look, Gambit were really struggling. You couldn't have got a worse start. 0-5, the games were going worse and worse and worse. They've picked up some confidence. H2K, their breaks have now been halted. They've had another 0-2 week. Despite, an upward trend, this game really shows that Kennen pick did not work out. Cabochard was unaffected, and it was Odoamne that was unable to really control team fights with it. I think I like the theory, but the execution just did not work out. There was too much mobility, too much damage from Gambit. So H2K have to go back to the drawing board and say, was this the right game or the right opponent team comp to pick this Kennen into? And probably their coach will have to help break that down and see if it's going to work next time.
They have played a number of different things in general picks, and Odoamne has been kind of at the forefront of that. He played that Scion against the Wolves, didn't quite work out for them as he was caught. Actually, it's not the... it's really kind of characteristic that Odoamne has been the one trying to initiate fights, but he's always a couple seconds ahead of his team, and that's burned them a lot. That one big fight in the middle that Diamond and the rest of Gambit were able to turn around, and once they get ahead, they had so much chase potential. It was ridiculous to try to get away from them. Even Ryu with 3 Spirit Rush charges wasn't able to get away from half of that. And as you mentioned, Pinoy just goes bazooka on the whole team.
Yeah, there's 2 things you've got to take into account. First pick, blind pick Kassadin from Nick, and it worked out. He had a great game. What was his end stat? 6-3 and 17, only giving up a few kills right near the end. And it was actually a last pick Kennen from H2K. So they had a whole wealth of champions to pick from. They had Lissandra if they wanted to go that route. They had Mundo if they wanted to go that route for the tank. And they opted to go Kennen into the full team comp of Gambit. I think it's, in my mind, it is a big discussion point. It is something that we'll see if the analyst desk agrees with. But it did not work out. The first pick Kassadin did. I was not confident in Nick's ability, but he proved, I think, a lot of people that he has the ability to perform against the likes of H2K.
Yeah, and not only for Nick, I want to really touch upon Diamond this game because, we saw that preview video. loulex called him a middle-of-the-pack jungler.
Yeah.
This time, Diamond had an amazing kill participation, involved in 30 out of 33 kills. He was 5, 3, and 25 on the score. Insane amount of mobility in the Rek'Sai. He got some of those deep tunnels down, maybe not so quite as many as we've seen from some of the others that have had it, but really, really stepped it this time, and loulex just was not in the same class. Now, for a deep dive into Gambit's win, we're going to go ahead and hand it over to Shocks and Amazing over at the analyst desk.
Thank you very much.